welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kristen. So for today's video, I'm going to be sharing every single 5-star book that I read in 2022. So these are all the books that I obviously loved and rated 5 stars. I think there's like 28 of them. So I'm just going to be going through each one and sharing them. I'm obviously going to go through them a little bit quickly. I'm not going to be sharing like what they're all about and everything because there's too many books and that'll take forever. But I did this video last year and I really liked doing it. So I wanted to go ahead and share it again with my 5-star reads from this year. I honestly feel like I hadn't been giving out that many 5 stars for this year, but I actually am surprised that I have like 28 because I think I had around the same amount last year. But the first one I'm going to start off with is actually one that I did read last year. It was the very last book that I read in 2021. I finished it literally on New Year's Eve, and so this one was one that I didn't get to include in last year's video because I filmed that before I finished this book, and I didn't realize that this book was going to be a 5-star read. But the first book is Hot House Flower by Kristen Becca Ritchie, which is part of the Addicted and Calloway Sisters series. This one, I loved it so much. This is where I completely fell in love with this series and it became one of my all-time favorites. So this one was just an automatic 5-star read as soon as I was done with it, and that led to me obviously continuing with the series and just loving it so much. So all the rest of the books in the series ended up being 5-star reads too, so I'm gonna go through the ones that I read this year that were 5 stars. I'm not done with the series yet, but the ones that I did continue with in 2022 were all 5-star reads. So the next book was Thrive, and then Addicted After All, which was my favorite of the series so far, and then Feel the Fire, and then of course Long Way Down. Moving on from that, the rest of these books are going to be in reading order, so starting from January up until now. So the next book is From Look Up With Love by Mariana Zapata. This is my first book of the year, loved it, rated it 5 stars. It was very easily a 5-star read. I was obsessed with these characters and with this story. The next book was Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. Loved this book. I did a video for it. It was amazing, very impactful. I cried so much while I read it. It was such a great story. So it was also easily a 5-star read. I was very excited for this book and it lived up to all my expectations. The next book is The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. I loved this one so much. It's a Grumpy Sunshine trope, and I feel like this is a book that made me realize how much I love that trope because it was just done so well in this one. And then next is Terms and Conditions, which is the book that follows The Fine Print. They are interconnected standalone, so you can read it on its own, but I would definitely recommend reading them both because obviously they're both 5-star books for me. While I did rate them both 5 stars, I would definitely say that Terms and Conditions was better. I loved it so much. I really didn't expect that at all, but I just was obsessed with it after I read it. Next is The Confidence of Wildflowers by Macaulay Smeltzer. I feel like this one has some mixed reviews for it, and I could definitely see why, but there was just something about this book that I just really liked it. I thought it was a really great book. It is very heartbreaking. Definitely check trigger warnings for it. I wasn't upset by what happened because I kind of saw it coming, but yeah, I just liked it overall. I thought it was an enjoyable book. I finished it really quickly because I couldn't put this book down. There is a second one. I initially rated that one also 5 stars, just like overall I rated this duet 5 stars because there's a sequel and you kind of have to read the sequel because this one is like a little bit of a cliffhanger, but since reading it I kind of realized I didn't really like the sequel that much. It was just kind of average. This one I did really enjoy, so this one was a 5-star read. The next book is one of my all-time favorites. I always say that whenever I bring this book up, but it's Say You Swear by Megan Brandy. This book was amazing. I loved it so much. I'm not over it. Just the whole story, the characters, it was just perfect. And this one was again just another really like unexpected book for me. Like I didn't expect to love it as much as I did, and it just completely blew me away. It's one of the best books I've read. I love it so much. The next book is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I love Emily Henry so much. I've talked about that before. She's one of my favorite authors. So this one I was so excited for it because Emily Henry, and it was just a really great book. It was really fun too. It's a rom-com. It definitely has some serious topics in there, but it had some cute banter as well, and I just really liked that about this one. Next I had read the Fulton You series by Maya Hughes. So the first book in the series is The Perfect First. This one I loved it so much. I automatically rated it 5 stars because I just thought it was the cutest book ever. I loved the 2 characters in this one. I feel like they were kind of very different from each other. It has like kind of that jock with like the nerdy quiet girl trope, so I really liked that about this one, and it was just a really fun book. The characters were really sweet. I really loved them a lot. I really enjoyed reading this. I did a reading vlog for the series. When I went into it I wasn't expecting to really love this book as much as I did, but it's one of my favorites in the series. And then the next book that I really loved in that series was The Third Best Thing, which is the 3rd book of the series. So it's a 4-book series. Books 1 and 3 were like my favorites. They were the ones that I rated 5 stars. The other 2 were really good too, but these were like the ones that stood out that I just really loved. This one was the one I was most excited for. It was the one that I like going in I knew I was gonna love. So yeah, it obviously met those expectations and I ended up really enjoying this one a lot. Next is Twisted Lies by Anna Huang. This is the 4th book in the Twisted series and I loved it so much. I was so excited for this book. I was so excited for this couple. They kind of get hinted at in like the 2nd book, and then the 4th one is obviously all about them, and it was so good. I loved them together. I loved Stella, who's the main character, and then her and Christian together were just great. So this one was amazing. definitely 5 stars. But the next book I'm going to talk about is Twisted Hate, which is the 3rd book in this series. So I actually read this one in January, but I just wanted to group these two together. But this book, I was a little bit iffy on if I thought it was 5 stars. I think I rated it 4.75, but I wanted to go ahead and just put it in this video because I feel like it's just right there on the verge of like, it's basically a 5-star book. So I'm just including it anyway because I did really enjoy this book. The next book is Blindside by Candy Steiner. This is a college sports romance and it has fake dating in it, and I remember seeing so many people talk about this book and it was just very hyped up, so I was excited for it because it just seemed like a really cute book and it was just amazing. Like, I loved it so much. I loved these characters, I loved the tropes, the storylines. It was just such an amazing book, and it's still one of my favorite sports romance books I've read. The next book is The Light We Lost by Jill Santopolo. This one is another amazing book. Like, I'm still not over it. I'll never get over how great it is. It's just one of those books that I couldn't stop thinking about, literally couldn't put it down, finished it so fast. I feel like it has some mixed reviews, but personally I thought it was amazing, and yeah, it's definitely like one of my all-time favorite books I've ever read. The next book is Perfect Strangers by J.T. Geisinger. I read this one back in July, and this book, I just went through so many emotions when I read it. It was absolutely insane. There's so many plot twists in it. I never saw any of it coming, but it was so good. Like, at first I didn't like it. I actually changed my rating on it a few times because it made me so mad. Like, I didn't like the way the story went, but then I literally couldn't stop thinking about it because it was just so insane. Like, I never saw any of that coming. I don't know, it's just such a crazy story. Like, I want people to read it and like go through that, but at the same time I can see like why someone wouldn't like it because it was kind of annoying like reading it, but afterwards I just couldn't stop thinking about it. Like, it was just so good. I loved the whole concept of it. It was so great. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. It's not really like a traditional romance, but it does have like the romance in it. It is kind of suspenseful. I feel like this is just one of those books where you need to go in just knowing nothing about it. It just makes it so much better. I went into it thinking I knew what was going to happen, and it just wasn't what I was expecting at all. But it was so good. I loved it so much. I still think about this book. I don't own a physical copy of it. I want one. I don't really like the cover, but I love this book so much that I would be willing to have this cover on my shelf. So I think I'm gonna get one eventually because I just really liked this book a lot. It was a really great book. The next two books are a duet, so it's Full Tilt and All In, which are both by Emma Scott. These do both go together, so the first book is Full Tilt and then All In is its sequel. You do need to read them in order, but it follows the same characters. And so Full Tilt was just amazing. I loved it so much. It's a very heartbreaking story. If you read the synopsis, you kind of get an idea of what it's about and you kind of know what's going to happen, but it was so good. I loved it so much. I loved these characters. I loved the whole story and just the whole message of it. And then All In obviously is a sequel to it, and I loved All In. I think the two of them like need to be read together. Like, you need to read both of them to get the overall story. Technically you could read Full Tilt and like just end there, but I don't recommend doing that because I feel like All In just added so much more to the story, and I just really loved it a lot. I loved the characters in it too. It is very heartbreaking. Both books are extremely heartbreaking. I cried so much while reading them, but overall I thought it was a really beautiful story and I couldn't stop thinking about it afterwards. I actually initially rated Full Tilt 4.5 stars, and then I read All In, and I feel like All In helped complete the story to where after I finished All In I was like, okay, Full Tilt and All In together, like each of them are both 5 stars. So that's why I feel like it's necessary to read the second book too. The next book is Flawless by Elsie Silver. So this is the first in a series of interconnected standalones. I read it because it was just being hyped up on TikTok and it lived up to the hype. I thought it was amazing. I loved it so much. I initially rated this one 4.75 stars. So if you were to watch like my wrap-up video where I talked about it, I did rate it 4.75 stars, but since then I've changed it because I just love this book so much. I still think about it. It's just such a great book. So it's now a 5-star read for me. The next book is The American Roommate Experiment by Elena Armas. This one, I'll be completely honest, I kind of forgot about it after I read it, but in the moment I really loved it and I rated it 5 stars. At this point I feel like I just kind of forgot about it to where I almost felt weird like including it in this video, but then I was like, it's fine because at the time it was a 5-star book and I really loved it a lot. I feel like I just loved it so much because it was exactly what I wanted to read at the time, and it was just cute, lighthearted. It was enjoyable because you get to see the characters from the last book in it. So even though I've kind of forgot about it, it was still a 5-star book the time. So the next book was a reread, but I'm gonna include it anyway because I reread it and my rating was still 5 stars. So it was It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I did a reading vlog of when I reread this book, and I remember talking about how part of me was worried I wouldn't love it as much as I did the first time that I read it, but it was still an amazing book, still 5 stars. I wouldn't have changed my rating anyway, but yeah, I reread it and it was still a 5-star book. And then of course I was reading that in preparation for It Starts With Us, which was another 5-star read. I loved this book so much. It lived up to all my expectations. I thought it was amazing personally. personally. So this one was also a 5-star book. I just really enjoyed seeing more of these characters and seeing the ending of their story. The next book is 'Tis the Season for Revenge by Morgan Elizabeth. So I read this one in November and I talked about it in my November wrap up and I rated it 4.5 stars. However, I've since changed my rating because after reading it, I just couldn't stop thinking about it. It was such a great book. I loved it so much. It's become like one of my comfort reads. Like I've been kind of rereading parts of it within like the last month since I read it. It was just such a fun book. I loved these characters. I loved the storyline. This one is kind of a holiday book, but I feel like you could read it at any time of year, and it's definitely become just one of my favorites now. Like it's definitely my all-time favorite holiday book, but it's also just a book that I will definitely go back to, and I definitely want to read more by Morgan Elizabeth. And then the last books I'm going to be talking about in this video are my most recent 5-star reads, and that is the Hoop series by Kennedy Ryan. So it's a 3-book series. The first one is Long Shot, the second book is Block Shot, and then the third book is Hook Shot. So with these 3, I did do a video talking all about them, going in depth on all my thoughts because I just loved them so much. I couldn't get over how amazing this series was. The first one, Long Shot, was definitely like the easiest 5-star read of these 3. Like immediately after I finished it, I knew it was a 5-star read. The other 2, I was a little bit iffy, but I just decided overall that it was a 5-star series and I ended up rating them also 5 stars. But yeah, the series is amazing. If you haven't read it yet, I highly recommend it. Definitely check trigger warnings for it though. But yeah, it's become one of my all-time favorite series. So those are all of my 5-star reads of 2022. Definitely let me know any of your thoughts. Let me know if we had any of the same 5-star reads, or let me know what your 5-star reads were for the year. But that's pretty much it for this video. If you liked this and you're new to my channel, I would love it if you would stick around and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching.